This is our sixth video for Chapter 2, Solving Equations Involving the Distributive Property. What you'll learn in this video is to solve equations in the form of p parentheses x plus q equals r using the distributive property. Remember, terms that have the same variable factors are called like terms. There are no vocabulary terms in this video, but remember, whenever you see a key concept box, you need to pause the video and copy the key concept box into your notebook. Builders and landscaper designers often need to adjust the dimensions of a rectangular area in order to get the specific perimeter. This is done using the distributive property. What the distributive property is when you multiply a factor by a sum or difference, the product is the same as multiplying the factors by each term and then adding or subtracting the products. What that means is, if you look at a problem like 4 times 5 plus 9, that would be the same as if you multiplied 4 times 5 and 4 times 9. So you would do those independently. You could also combine the 5 and the 9 before you multiply using the order of operations, and that would give you 4 times 14. No matter which way you do it, you would still get the 4 times 5 is 20, the 4 times 9 is 36, 4 times 14 is 56, 20 plus 36 is 56. So it doesn't matter which way you do it, is basically all this is saying. If you multiply the outside by everything on the inside, which is this method, you'll get the same answer as if you follow order of operations and use that method. Let's look at an example of using the distributive property. Suppose you have 42 feet of fencing to enclose your garden. The width of the garden is 8.2 feet. How do you figure out what length the garden must be? If you look at the picture to the right, you'll see we have our perimeter of 42 feet, and it also has labeled our 8.2 feet on our variable for the length that we don't know. So let's say length, or we're going to let x equal the length of the rectangular garden, which we've already shown in the label. So we need to write an equation for the perimeter. And we know the perimeter is going to be 2 times the length plus the height, or the length times the width. So we have 2 times our length plus our width equals our perimeter of 42. So if we use the distributive property to multiply those out, we have the first value, 2 times x, plus 2 times the second value, 8.2, equals again to the 42 we've already established. Then we're going to simplify, so we're going to do the multiplication. The 2x stays the same because we don't have anything we can do with that yet. Then 2 times 8.2 is 16.4, so that's our next line. Then we're going to move the 16.4 to the other side by subtraction, doing the opposite. Since it's plus 16.4, to move it, we're going to subtract 16.4 from both sides. That leaves me with 2x equals 25.6. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 2 to get the x by itself, so 25.6 divided by 2 is 12.8. So the length of the garden is 12.8 feet. Pause the video and do this quick check in your notebook. Be sure to label it as quick check, number the problem, and write down any pertinent information out of the word problem before you do your work. Now let's look at another example of solving using the distributive property. So we want to solve 10 times parentheses a minus 6 close parentheses equals negative 25. So to do this using the distributive property, we want to multiply everything on the inside of the parentheses by what's on the outside of the parentheses. So outside my parentheses is 10, so I want 10 times a and 10 times 6. And remember, when you're doing this, that you need to multiply what's outside the parentheses by everything on the inside. The most common mistake I see with this is people will multiply 10 times a and they forget all about the minus 6. So let's move on. So I have 10 times a plus 10 times negative 6 equals negative 25 using the distributive property. Then I'm going to go ahead and do any math that I can. So 10 times a gives me 10a, and positive 10 times negative 6 gets me negative 60 or minus 60, and my negative 25 stays the same because I haven't done anything with it yet. So now we simply have a two-step equation. So we need to move the negative 60 or the minus 60, so the opposite of minus 60 is plus 60, so I'm going to add 60 to both sides, which gets me 10a equals 35. Then to get the a by itself, I'm going to divide by 10, so dividing both sides by 10 gives me a equals 3.5. Now to go back and check your work, you're going to take that value for a that you found and just plug it back into that original equation. So 10 times 3.5 plus 10 times negative 6 equals 35 plus negative 60. So then you would just go through and do the math, and the solution checks. You can also check your solution by putting it back into the original equation. So if I replace the a in the original equation with 3.5, I would have 10 times parentheses 3.5 minus 6 parentheses equals negative 25. So then if I did the subtraction, I would have 10 equals negative 2.5 equals negative 25. And 10 times negative 2.5 gets me negative 25 equals negative 25. So again, my solution checks. Pause the video and do these quick checks in your notebook. Be sure to number them, write down the original equation, and show all your work. Now it's time to check your understanding. Pause the video, be sure to label it as check your understanding in your notebook, number all your questions, write down all the original equations, and be sure to show all your work. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow.